shoot. I already fucked it up.
Boy, that was a graceful entry.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Draftsmen Live. My name is Stan Proco. This is Marshall Vandra.
This is me, Marshall.
Yep. We're going to be doing questions and answers. And so you guys could start asking those questions on the YouTube chat now. We got Steven scrolling through those. He's going to pick the best questions.
Do we get to see the questions, or do we just wait for a report from Steven?
I mean, you could go to the YouTube page and read them if you want, but I suggest you just let Steven do that for
you.
Yeah. I'll search them out for you guys.
Yeah, when I go to the YouTube page, I get distracted.
That's fair. There's so many Mr. Beast videos to watch.
Okay, I'll trust you.
Oh God. Okay, Marshall, how you been?
Oh, good, Stan.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous, but not much. We've done this before 112 times. So
you keep track of the number?
No, I think we found out there was 108 when we finished, and then we've done like 4 cents or something like that. So yeah, I don't keep track. I just hear the experts tell me.
Stan, can you turn your microphone up?
I knew it, Steven. I told you.
Listen, you're just too quiet.
How's this? Is this better?
I don't know. They'll let us know in the chat.
Okay, I'm gonna just turn it up all the way. This is as loud as it gets.
Yeah.
Is my microphone
I can also
okay?
bring it closer.
They think yours sounds great, Marshall. That's what we expected from you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So 112 times now.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, how you been? You the past 2 months or so, your perspective course has been on pre-sale.
Yeah.
You've been watching all these students joining. It's the
actually I have not been watching. I've been trying to get production done, but yes. Should I be watching? Should I be seeing?
The course isn't done.
Pardon?
The course isn't done.
No, the course is not done. This is something that you know.
I know.
The course has gone public, but it is in production. Yes,
almost dead.
Now I'll be seeing student work next week, and we'll be doing a critique. Is that correct on your territory?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you'll be doing a critique. You'll be doing lots of critiques.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lessons coming up, but basically, okay. So the perspective course is now our most successful launch of a course ever. Congratulations, Marshall! Everybody, a round of applause for Marshall in the chat.
Good.
And there's still 1 week left to get it on pre-sale. It's a 15% discount right now, and we go live on it next Tuesday. So after that, it's on normal. It's still for sale, but it's on normal price. Yeah, and then you just every week new stuff, new lessons, new critiques, demos, lots of guest instructors. Give us a 10-second pitch of the course.
A 10-second pitch. If you've always been threatened by perspective, because perspective is a difficult thing, I'm going to do everything I can to make it as easy to understand as I can. Was that 10 seconds?
That's good. That was amazing. I'm surprised you. Yeah. Steven didn't have time to switch over to your full view.
Oh well.
And then
I could do it again, but it'll be a little redundant.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
here we are.
Exciting, Marshall. I think everybody's gonna love it from what I've seen.
Well, good. Now I have a question for you.
What?
How have you been, Stan?
I've been great.
What have you been working on?
The basics course mostly. Let's see. Melissa and I have another baby. We're getting another house.
What?
Or move in. What?
What did I hear?
That we're getting another house.
You're going to move from the house that you're in there. And what was the thing I heard before that?
We're having another baby.
Does everybody know this and I didn't?
Yeah.
This is a public announcement that Marshall hears on the podcast. When is this going to happen?
January.
That soon?
Very soon.
Well, I had no idea.
I know.
So congratulations.
So how long has the perspective course been in the works?
11 years.
And what's your oldest child, Stan?
7.
So you had 3 children.
3 children.
In the time.
in half of the time. Well, no, 11. Nah.
When you think about in the last 11 years that over 1 billion babies have been born in this world.
Really? Is that the
and
thing?
all I have to offer is the perspective course. I don't know how to
Wow,
feel.
you've offered everybody so much entertainment. You did the Draftsman thing.
Oh, yeah.
You became famous in those.
Well, congratulations.
Whoa.
And did I say congratulations?
No, that was my headphones.
Was somebody else yelling at you? Well, let's see. We're done with our witty banter. What do we do next?
We're going to take some questions. Let's just jump in.
I'm ready.
No.
You told me not to get prepared, but just to be ready. Let's see Mark the Narc.
This is a new feature.
We've been asked this question before, I can tell.
Read it.
Mark the Narc, are you familiar with Charles Bargues's drawing course, lithographs of classical forms and poses dating back to the late 19th century? Yes, I am familiar enough with it, and I can give the same opinion that I gave, I guess, 4 years ago.
I forgot. So a bunch of other people might have forgot, or they didn't see that. What's your opinion on this?
It looks great.
Your eyes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the art looks great. So judge for yourself. It's not the kind of thing that I do or that I teach. So I don't really have a lot to say.
Got it.
Do you know it?
I love Bargues's book. I love his value studies or the sculpture studies that he has. I think they're a great learning tool. For people learning how to shade and see value, because it starts very simple. You separate light and dark, then you add a little bit of reflected light, and it's a great way to learn to organize values and learning light on form and composition and stuff. I like it a lot.
And it is observation oriented?
Yes. Yeah.
So it gives you a keen eye, both for shape and value and form.
Correct.
Value for form.
Yes, interpreting form. Yeah. No.
How does it do for value for composition?
Well, because you're able to simplify it and start organizing values, and that's you're gonna need to do that in order to think about composing with shapes and values. You got to start being able to break it down. I haven't gone. I don't think he really goes into like composition broadly, but I think they're very much related.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents. I think they're great.
Okay.
I love them.
Red Witch. Should I read it since it's addressed to me?
Yes.
Marshall, I just finished your 1994 prospective course. Thank you very much for making that, by the way. And I have a question. How do I make cubes at specific angles using perspective? Well,
that was probably Steven. He probably chipped that away.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I'm being
perspective.
Yeah. Well, the way you learn to make cubes at specific angles using perspective is that you build a cube and you draw from it a lot and you imprint it on your brain. But it is not just that. You also learn the logic of how lines go from your eye. And there are 3 sets of lines you will study. And there is no way to do it. There is a way to do it through pure analysis. You can do it exactly through pure analysis. And we will do that in the coming perspective course. You can use that plan projection that I taught even back in 1994. But what you want to do is imprint the cube. I'll take 1 minute, maybe 2 minutes on this. Because the cube is the foundation of proportion, because it is 1 by 1 by 1, which means that you can figure anything that is less than 1 by 1 by 1 is either thinner or less deep, shallower, or taller or shorter. And you imprint those proportions on you so that you get to know them the way bank tellers get to know counterfeit money. The secret is not to examine counterfeit money. The secret, I'm told, is to examine real money over and over and over until when the counterfeit comes, it's just obvious. So this is a discipline of learning the logic of the cube, which I will teach more, but I did a bit back then when we talked about only 3 sets of lines, and you're looking for an eye to proportion, And then in the second part of this course, did you know that in part 2 of this coming perspective course, part that I'm working on right now, we are going to spend 3 sets of lessons on the cube, partly for why it's important and the simplicity of it and why you want to imprint it. The second thing is how to never let your lines as they're going away from you diverge. Always let your lines as they're going away from you either stay parallel if you're really far back or converge. And we'll practice that for a good week. And then finally, we'll get to getting an eye for proportion of cubes and also making it so that the lines aren't wonky. And this is by freehand. We've talked about this before. I think we talked about this in the podcast we did on perspective. Now, did I spend 2 minutes on that? The way you do it is you study the cube for its logic, and then you practice it to get it into your impulses. I hope that answered.
That's a great answer. Someone said Marshall's moving product. Oh, yeah. You sure are.
Caleb Wyman, is this the Caleb Wyman that I knew and that even started to design one of my websites and was my student 20 years ago? How do you balance technical precision with creative expression in your work? In my work? You want to answer this first? Well, since I know Caleb was a blessing in my life, and I haven't talked to him in years. And I don't even know what you're doing, Caleb, but here's I'll try to do a short answer. I have had a history of imbalancing technical precision with creative expression in my work. I feel like when I was 19 and trying to be an artist, I was pretty expressive. I had ideas galore. And in my late 20s, I was becoming humiliated by my lack of technical knowledge. So I went on a pursuit of technical knowledge and got technical precision and learned how to meet deadlines and handle the perspective and learn anatomy. And then somewhere in my late 30s, a friend of mine who has become a great illustrator looked at my work, and I asked him what he thought. And he said, I admire your technical precision. I admire how much time you put into this. I admire a lot of things about it, but I don't understand why you would put that much energy into a character so boring, into an image so boring. And I realized when it came out of his mouth, I had a little voice in the back of my head for the last year or 3 or 5 that had been telling me, this is technically excellent work, but it's not worth doing. And he put it into words, and I repented of it. And I started my sketchbook in my late 30s, which was a way to deal with my midlife crisis of being too technically tight and too worried about doing it well, and just drawing and making bad drawings. And then I went the other way. And I started to be so free and so fearless that I would put out garbage drawings and be okay with it. So I'm still struggling with it, but I've done a few drawings in the last number of years that I feel like reached the balance. I hope this is helpful to you, Caleb, because you were a master of control of your medium, website design, and technical stuff, and you also seem very creative. So there's my compliment to the question asker.
Yeah. I'm similar to you. I'm a very technical person, and so when I studied art, it was all about all the rules and the techniques and light on form and color theory and anatomy, and it was all the stuff that you learn, but the expression wasn't as natural. I mean, the most expressive I got as I was studying was like gesture drawing. That was me being able to just kind of feel it, because you don't have time to think through things. And so that was my way of trying to tap into that mindset. And then later on, I started getting into plein air painting. And that was also a lot more about feeling, because that when I did plein air painting, I was focused on color more. And with the way I approached color theory was actually just to feel it out more so in the beginning. And then slowly add on little, color theory principles that help you along the way to make better decisions. But yes, sketching. I think sketching is a great way to, if you are more technical, to just let loose and get more expressive and add some of that emotion in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you just have to try to let go of it. There's no other way if you're naturally just more technical. But then there's the other side. There's some artists that just can't stand learning the technical stuff, and they can only just like split out, and then they suffer from not following the fundamentals enough to where it just like breaks some of their stuff too much. So either way, if you lean towards one side, you have to put effort into trying to move yourself towards the middle a little bit, at least enough towards the middle to where your strengths are not hurting you. They're not weaknesses. You balance them out a little bit with the other side. Yeah.
I want to take that thing about balancing out and meeting in the middle. There was, I think I've mentioned this before. There was a philosopher, William James, at the early part of the 20th century, and had one little sentence in his book on the varieties of religious experience, where he talked about greatness does not come out of pulling in the sets of opposites. It comes from polarizing them into a stronger set of extremes that can balance each other out. And I think he used the example of strength on its own just is bruteness, and gentleness on its own is just weakness. But when you have strength and gentleness going together, you get a strong thing. So here is some practical advice before we move on from this, Caleb. I've got two things to say. One is get examples in front of your face of people who you feel like they have mastered it. Mm-hmm. And many of the great masters, Rembrandt comes to mind first of all. Van Gogh was way over the side of expressionistic. He was technically not that excellent when you compare him to other of the old masters, but he was practically the birth of expressionism. And you put him, but he had enough control of his paint to where as he went on, he did stunning stuff. And then you can look at people like Ingres, I-N-G-R-E-S. His stuff is not expressive. It's really tight. Some people like it that way. Get people in front of your face. And I think this designation of two categories, technically precise and emotionally expressive, is a good set of opposites to keep in mind, because they do come into conflict with each other. They do cancel each other out at times, but they also can accentuate each other. The person who is wild with their expressivity and in control of their technical skills and technique is a powerful artist. So there's one. Get examples in front of you. Say, I want to be like that. And then the second thing is to actually turn those two categories into training, so that you're, when I teach expressive drawing, I do something that some students didn't like. It's kind of ironic because it is expressive drawing, and we are going to learn to let loose and use technique that is uncontrollable and give into emotional whims. We start the class with 1 hour of drawing lines in response to the protractor, of drawing shapes and aspect ratios, the difference between 3x4 and 16x9, and all of the different aspect ratios, so that we are in a very technical mode. And that is a setup to let it go in the next 5 hours of class, is that we have grounded ourselves with some accountability and then thrown accountability to the wind. And if you can find a training regimen, that philosophy comes from Nicolaides. He says it early in the book, to train fast and slow. Okay, I think we've
cool.
said enough.
Marshall, somebody named their child after you.
Oh, that's dangerous.
No,
I don't.
Let me read it. This is a great comment. This is from Mario or Marie Jo Pedic. For the younger one of you two, Marshall. All right. I appreciate people. Yeah, I appreciate people in my life who give it's scrolling up, who give me not only knowledge but that inner passion, the fuel to dream, and to be fascinated by simple stuff like Bridgman legs, arms, torso, the desire to want to live 1,000 years more just to study trees. One more reason why I wanted to write this is tell you that I named a child after you. Marsha equals Masha or Masa. I don't know how to pronounce
okay.
it. So
well, good.
She's a sweet and beautiful young lady who is 4 months old. And the reason that we named her after you is that you have a lot in common with my wife. You both don't like ... They didn't finish this.
Really? They didn't finish because I'm very interested.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
Parties, don't like
Stan.
You just both don't like.
No.
That's it. You don't like.
Well, that was a clever bit of writing to arouse curiosity as to. But yeah. Well, I'm honored. But I also feel, I guess everybody names somebody after somebody, and I don't think I've never heard of anybody. Did you name your kids after anybody in your family?
Quinn Rose is named after a paint color.
Quinacridone Rose? Really?
Quinacridone Rose, yes.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Quinacridone is a wonderful word.
Yeah, I like the pigment as well, and Quinn Rose.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And then people are just making fun of me in the chat the whole time. So
yeah,
they're saying I look tired.
Saying you were what?
That I look tired.
Well, you hear a person say that they're going to have a new child, and you make some assumptions. I think.
Yeah. Well, those
is that what it was? I haven't had that. Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of questions coming through.
Okay.
Yeah. So many.
Yeah. Sorry.
The problem here is that people have so many questions, and you guys have good.
You want to fire them off and see if we can do them fast?
I think I'm going to hang out here and just read some of them to you guys.
Putting time limits on can be interesting too. To say see if you can answer this in a minute.
Self-imposed time limits.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Mateo asked, how do you guys get over the fear of forming bad drawing habits, and what are good ways to avoid developing bad habits?
The fear of avoiding the fear of developing bad habits is maybe one bad habit.
Honestly, yeah.
It's like a spiral. Because now you're just like, I don't want to study because I might develop a bad habit. Man, that's a good one though. Like, if you're just scared to start, you can't get anywhere. Honestly, I think part of being an artist is just exploring and seeing what happens and going with the flow. Like, that's part of that creative side. And even if you do develop bad habits, you can always undevelop them. Like, it'll be a little bit harder, but it's impossible not to develop some bad habits. You're just gonna do that along the way. And just like every month or whatever your schedule is, just like pick some new thing to chip away at and try to identify the bad habits you have and just chip away at those and just do your best to get better. It's a uphill battle the entire time, and you're going to take one step back, 2 steps forward. And it's not like a linear path like that you are hoping for. You're always going to be making mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Alex asked, I think if we talked a lot about the perspective course, but for other courses, Alex asks, do you advise the overhand grip for a beginner who wants to make portraits realistic? Many content, so a bunch of content that they saw about realistic portraits, draw with the tripod grip for more detail.
Stan, I'll let you answer that.
Sure. Yeah. It depends on what pencil you're using. For overhand grip, I like to use that with the charcoal pencil that I sharpen really long. A lot of ateliers do that. It's kind of a classic way of sharpening a pencil. But yeah, if you're using a graphite pencil, or when I'm using a graphite pencil, I mostly just use tripod grip. Like it's meant to just use the tip mostly. I mean, you sometimes, very occasionally, I will sharpen it a little bit longer, the graphite pencil, just a little bit longer, not too long because then it'll just break. So that I could get use overhand and get the side a little bit more. But I just use it the way I think it works best, is just doing the tip and just getting that crosshatch in there, and getting that tip into the grain of the paper and shading it clean. Yeah. But you could do both. I mean, I honestly, if you're pick one that you prefer as your main one, and then but learn both. Like try to get comfortable with both. Like I'm comfortable with both, and I think it's a great thing it's a beneficial thing to be able to just switch off and use the one that you need at that moment when depending on the tool you're using. So eventually, as you get to be closer and closer to mastering your tools and the drawing techniques, try to incorporate both of them into your toolbox. But that doesn't mean that you have to start off trying to do everything at the same time. Pick one, get good enough to where you're getting good results with it, and then expand from there.
Marshall, do you have anything to add to this one? Okay. Gannon Beck, a very frequent commenter online on the Proco website.
I know the name.
Oh, yeah.
Can we get a preview of some of the assignments you have planned for us, Marshall?
Good one.
Oh, yeah. I kind of wish I'd been prepared for this, but
the good ones, the ones you
right
remember.
from the beginning, we've already got an assignment and people have been responding to it, and that is to collect masters. And then the next thing we're going to be doing is identifying what they do, how they use perspective, because there are 5 different ways that one creates the illusion of depth, and we want to name them and put them in categories so that we can be consciously aware of how we're using them. And that is fun. All that's really doing, it's like if you're learning songwriting, you learn the anatomy of a song, and that way when you invent things randomly, you can kind of know where they would fit in a song, how you would use them. So that will be study of perspective by looking at great examples. We will also learn the instruments, the tools, the protractor. I'm going to get you, there's a reason that this cube has a circle on it and the circle has a protractor on it. And I'll give you a little introduction to why protractors evolved, a very little introduction to it. But part of it will be learning the angles and learning 90 degrees, which is the most important one for perspective, but then 45s and why you have 30 and 60 degree triangles and 45 degree triangles. And that will be for perception, to be able to see things. It doesn't teach you perspective, it teaches you to get an eye, like Charles Barg teaches you to get an eye for value. And then we will go to isometric perspective pretty quickly, because isometric perspective has no vanishing points, and isometric perspective works. And it evolved in order to help people build things on paper before they would.
What's the assignment though for that?
Pardon?
What's the assignment for that?
The assignment is that isometric perspective is cool for making optical illusions. So you'll make some optical illusions, and that gets you thinking about 3 different planes. Okay, I'll speed up.
Yeah, some cool projects.
Pardon?
Some cool projects.
Cool projects. But here's one of the big. Here's where we go into the really big stuff. It's you find an object like a toy airplane or anything you want. You can go something as small or as thick as a deck of cards, but that's very simple. And you learn to turn it into something that is boxy, so that you're only concerned with height, width, and depth lines. And for people who say, life's more complicated. I know, that's why we start with height, width, and depth lines. So you'll take an object that is more complicated than a box and box it up, and you'll do that over and over and over and try to turn it into other positions. Then we will learn orthos, how you look at them straight on, straight down, straight from the side. And you will take that object and draw it that way, which goes back to the protractor thing of seeing things like an architect. And then here's where we get difficult. You'll try to eyeball 3-dimensional views of it, where you're taking into account those 3 orthographic views, and then draw it in a different position without looking. Oh, it's so hard. But the secret is to turn the simple box into a different position and then pack those parts into it. Then we will get to the solution for all technical problem solving, which is to do plan projections from your orthos. And when I teach you that, which almost finishes the course, to do plan projections, you'll say, he had me doing all this technical stuff. I'll give you a hint. It's so that you never have to do it again. so that you will understand perspective. And then we will move into drawing the cube over and over and over, and then putting cylinders into it and turning it into spheres. And we'll do some wide angle, a lot of wide angle and close up wide angle and far away distant, more than any course you've ever seen. And you will take objects that you're looking at a photograph of and try to draw them so they're right up close to them and way far away from them. I'm ranting and going on because I'm excited about a lot of these projects. But
turns out you like perspective. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
I've never gotten tired of it. I've gotten weary of the work around it, but it's like an animal that loves honey. Bears, I guess, or caricatured that way. They may get full of it, but they don't say, "No, I'm done with that." I just don't get tired of it.
That's fair. We have a bunch of questions here.
Keep going.
Some that are more serious than others.
Stephen, you can put time limits on it, and I'll try to honor them.
Okay, I'll see if I can do this one. There's some questions in here that are more serious than others. There's one here that I don't think I fully understand. The people have said twice in here, asking about the floor plan of Marshall's childhood home.
What?
Is that anything? They said Stan. Someone did ask you to stop reading the chat. No, that's cool. But they said Stan asked Marshall for his father's house plans. I want to see the genius. Is that something you guys have talked about before?
Oh yeah,
you're crazy.
You did mention your father's house and how you love that you grew up in it. But wait, what's the question again?
They just want to know the house plans. I feel like this person's asked multiple times. They just want to dox you.
Was it really? Well,
my dad said that the city may have them in their archives. City of Anaheim may have them in their archives. He said that a few years before he died, and I never did pursue it. But somebody bought the house, gutted the whole thing, made it all anew. I'm sure it looks completely different inside. And yeah, I still dream about that house 3, 4, 5 times a week. But no, I could draw out the house plans, and I'm sure I could deduce them pretty accurately by steps. But why are you asking this? If you are willing to invest the money to rebuild that house someplace else, or help me purchase it so that we can relive good memories there, then yeah.
And I forgot, Stephen, you requested that I add one thing in the beginning, and I totally didn't do it. Yeah, and now somebody's asking in the chat. Yes, this stream will be posted as a replay afterwards.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a different thing. I thought it was going to be the other one.
What was the other one?
And we'll get to it, I promise.
Okay.
So this is a more serious one, but I think you guys have addressed this in a Draftsman episode before. I think it's probably a pretty big one for people right now. Carlos Ant in the chat said, I got laid off recently in my former art job, and I haven't been able to draw something for myself since. So how can I find another inner drive to draw that's not about making a career? Thank you.
Good question. Sincere question. Felt question. Yeah.
This is a good question for anybody, even for people who, currently have a job. Can I ask you the same thing, Marshall? Because I have a job, and I struggle with this too.
You want me to try to answer it, and you want to put a time limit on me, or this one that we should watch out for putting a time limit on? Because I'm thinking of something right away.
You can do as long of an answer. I think this one is one that shouldn't have a time limit on it.
Okay. I've talked on this podcast many times about Bob and Wanda Duncan because they were my childhood babysitters who made their money in novels and TV. And then when I was 12 years old, they moved back to Oklahoma. And when Bob died, I was 40, and I interviewed Wanda on the phone a few times, and she told me after those years in television, which they hated, but they made a lot of money, that when they bought their ranch in Oklahoma, and they had been there, and Bob had been writing all his life, and he suddenly couldn't write at all. And I think it took him 2 to 3 years before he was able to write again, which when you think about 2 to 3 years to a person whose identity was as a professional writer. And she said that there was one time, I don't know whether it was months in, or I think it was several months in to their retirement from TV, that she was hanging laundry out on a line, and she said, I had a personal reverie, a personal fantasy. And she said, I realized that in however long it had been, 15 years, that I had never had a personal fantasy, or hardly ever had a personal fantasy, because all fantasy had to be aimed toward the production of the show. What would these characters do? Well, they rebounded and they made another fortune making novels together. So I guess the thing that I get out of this is a cliche that isn't always true, but it is that time heals all wounds. And if it doesn't heal all wounds, time makes a difference in the severity of the wound. And I think it has everything to do with what you are doing during that time, what you're occupying yourself with. I think that they decided that they would rather be novelists than TV screenwriters. So that's the first thing that that comes to my mind. I had a similar thing when I went through that crisis of being so technically concerned, is that I just could not ideate, and it changed. It changed by being around the right people, by embracing certain exercises. I don't know what more to say. Stan, I'll let you take it from here, and you maybe even repeat the question in case I've wandered off of it.
Do you need to be reminded? Finding love about arts outside of a professional pursuit.
Yeah. Lost his job. Now he's struggling to make personal art.
Oh, I have another thing to say. I'm reading a book by Adam Savage right now, and he he talked about that. It's about a book about his career and his creativity. He talked about giving yourself permission to do it as an amateur, giving yourself permission to say, "I'm just going to do this as an amateur." It's a good feeling, because it allows you to find what your impulses are to do when it's not for a client. This could be a very good thing for you, in that you're going to discover what you love.
Yeah, these times in your life when there's big change are opportunities to direct yourself in whatever direction you want, right? Because like when you're going through the motions and everything's fine, and you can go decades of just doing the same thing, and you're kind of on a trajectory and it's hard to get out of it. But then when you have this sudden life change, it could go very bad, it could go very good, but you do have the ability to steer yourself towards some direction, and there's a lot more maneuverability in these moments. So just try to take advantage of it. Make it as good as you can. It's not a very comfortable situation that you're in. It could be very difficult. But you do have some choices you can make, and just remember this comes around very rarely in people's lives where they could make big decisions like that.
It's particularly hard if you're financially dependent on the work.
Yeah, you might be able to do. You might have to do things that you just don't want to for a while, and struggle to find even time or energy in whatever time is remaining to get better and look for more work and all that. It can be very challenging.
Absolutely.
I could tell an encouraging story from somebody who wrote a book about his life, and he's the most influential, arguably the most influential composer of the second half of the 20th century. It's Philip Glass. He wrote a memoir called Words Without Music. And as influential as he has been, and as successful as he has been, he's in his late 80s now. He did not make a living as a musician until he was 41 years old. And he decided at the age of 8, and then the age seriously at 15, that he wanted to be a composer. And he was never discouraged. That was one of the things that I got out of the book. Everything he had to do, he had to be a plumber, he had to be a taxi driver, he had to do a number. He always saw it as an opportunity to delay his success and get new I guess the analogy, he didn't use this analogy, like a camel, that you are getting so ready for that long journey that you're going on, that it's having a slow metabolism of preparing, and having your success delay was good for him.
Okay.
I appreciate you guys' answers.
Move on.
Stan, there was a news story that you and I were talking about.
You want me to bring it up now?
That?
Yeah, Marshall, I forgot to bring this. This is the one you're talking about. During our banter, I wanted to bring up a news story recently this week. Did you hear about the Durer that was found?
No, I didn't. Durer that was found?
Yes, a new original that was found. So that's
a big deal.
Okay, so I think it was like 13 years ago. An 11-year-old boy. I don't know why, but an 11-year-old boy was at a dumpster. I don't know that story, but and he saw in the back of someone's car was some drawing and he liked it, and the lady was gonna throw it out into the dumpster. And he asked her if he could have it instead. And now 13 years later, as an adult, he was like, I wonder if this is worth anything. And then and then he went to some professional and they're like, yeah, this is worth a lot. And so he sold it, I think, for like, I think it was like 44,000. I would expect it to be more. It's like a 500-year-old drawing. Like, or
I expect it to be more.
Engraving. I was like, wow, that's okay. But yeah, this is, look it up. It's like Knights of Death or shit. I forgot what it's called.
Well, not Night, the Death and the Devil.
Yes.
An engraving. Oh, well, then it's not a new piece. We've all seen that piece, but this was one of the strikes.
Three.
There
were three, right?
It's
Yeah, one of the originals was found. So it's not a new piece. Sorry, it's not a new piece, but it's an original that was found. They didn't know where it was.
Oh, that's a corker of a piece. Arthur Rackham had a print of that in his dining room, and you can see the influence of it. Even though Durer and Rackham have very different styles, Durer is one of the most influential from that era. I went crazy for his stuff when I saw it. That is a cool piece.
Can you believe it's only $44,000?
Yeah,
I think he got ripped off.
Yeah, that feels like the kid took the money.
He's not a kid anymore.
So, but in this situation, you guys are saying he got ripped off. He literally got it like for free, basically.
Yeah, but still, I mean, he's an 11-year-old boy who saw value in this drawing. Like, he deserves whatever he's getting.
Give him 440,000.
Yeah, maybe I missed an extra zero on that, but
I think it was
somebody in the chat.
Right. I think you said the right kind of amount. Marshall, you guys are going to talk about Durer a whole lot in the perspective course, I believe, right?
Well, we are going to talk about Durer because Durer was great, and I got to teach a society of German illustrators recently, and because I've got so much on Durer, it just fit well to bring him up because they all know who he is and they know where his house is. But yeah, I was haunted by his work, and
in a bad way?
I still am. Pardon, Stan?
Did it make you uptight? Like in a bad way? You were haunted by his work in a bad way?
Well, I was haunted by it because the images stick in my brain. But I picked up I've mentioned before, I picked up his worst qualities. This is very awkward characters, very awkward gestures. One student who was assessing my work years ago and became a friend, he said one of the main words I put on your work is awkward. And he said it's not altogether bad because in awkwardness there is kind of a non-threatening appeal, but it's also awkward. But Durer has got that. He's got some of the most awkward characters I've ever seen in the history of art.
Okay. All right.
Next question.
So Kalp was asking, how does one become a scientific illustrator? I'm really interested in it, but I have no idea about where to start.
This is for you, Marshall.
Oh, well, the way you become a scientific illustrator is that you get immersed in that world of scientists who use illustrators. You don't get immersed in the world of artists who happen to dabble in science, because scientific illustration is a domain that has criteria and standards. I know I'm pretty sure there's a school in England, somewhere in the UK anyway, that specializes in it. I'm sure in Germany there is one. It's a world I don't know, but you will learn things from Proco that could be useful, because a lot of scientific illustrators do not have any taste.
I like the pivot though. This was a good pivot. Yeah. If we feel we've used that one up, I can say that there's another one here. This was Mo Iso is saying, Stan, I'm up to date with the basics course as a total beginner and loving it. Really excited to start the gesture and anatomy courses, but worried I might rush into it and go in the wrong order. Do you have any advice for them in this?
Start with figure before anatomy. That's the question, right?
Essentially, yeah, like because they're up to date with the drawing basics course, so they could just wait for drawing basics lessons to get metered out, spend their time with that information. But it seems like they want to move on into a couple other courses.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine because we're basically done with line, shape, and perspective in the basics course. The intuitive perspective and all that, and so that's enough to start the figure course, absolutely, because we don't get into shading until the end of the figure course. And so this is the perfect time to, if you were to combine another course to take at the same time, you add figure at this exact moment because this is where it picks off. Because in basics, we're going to start going into shading, and that's going away from linear drawing. And figure drawing starts off in the linear parts of figure. And so you're going to transition very smoothly into figure drawing at the moment.
And I would like to throw in here that you've come out with so many courses, I can't follow them all, but the figure drawing course and the anatomy course were the ones that I knew every episode. And I just think they're wonderful. If any of you are doubting, somebody asked earlier about the fear. What was it? The fear of developing bad habits?
Yeah.
Is that it? And that itself can be a bad habit? I want to say something about that. Here's a way you overcome the fear of developing bad habits. You find work, exercises, regimens, courses, teachers that you trust. Fear comes from a lack of trust as much as anything else when it's in a relationship with a teacher. So you find, what do I feel confident that I can trust? And I think that figure drawing course is going to steer you in such a good direction. If you've got community and teachers and exercises and projects that you can say, these are not going to give me bad habits. That's my answer to that question from earlier. So that's a pitch for Stan's course.
Thank you, Marshall. And also to add to that, replace the fear of developing bad habits with an excitement for developing good habits.
Yeah.
Because you're going to end up doing both. You're going to end up building good habits and bad habits. So focus on that, on developing the good ones. That's an easy thing to say. But but I think the knowledge that you're going to do both anyway, whether no matter what you focus on, I think can relieve some of the stress of just being like, yeah, I'm going to develop bad habits, whatever. I can't avoid it. It's not in my control. So
I could challenge that.
I'm trying. I'm trying, Marshall.
We've got contention.
Yeah, we've got so many questions.
Challenge.
Okay, well, here is the thing.
Right there.
I'm listening to James Clear reading Atomic Habits. I'll be on it for a long time. And he's got a lot to say about habits. And I think it's an excellent book. And he talked about, I don't know how, I can't recall their last name. It was the family of chess players, 3 girls, 3 daughters. Does that sound familiar? And they became amazing chess players because I don't know much about the whole family life from the time they were born was about the love of chess. And to an outsider, they could say it's an obsessive and controlling father who wants to do that, but they loved their childhood and they became chess masters at early ages. And I'm pretty confident that in that family, when it came to this thing, being good at chess, no bad habits were developed. I'm sure that everybody's got bad habits, yeah, but when it comes to drawing, when it comes to an art form, when it comes to mastering music, writing, I think that if you are trained well, early on in particular, that you can avoid almost all bad habits and just get into the zone that makes you great at that thing. I think it can be done. I might be a little idealistic, but that's my feeling.
No, I agree with that. Like, if you have a mentor that can notice your bad habits as they're happening and guide you away from them, Yeah, absolutely, it helps. But if you're studying on your own and you have no way of even identifying them, you could see a habit forming and you don't even know that it's bad. Like, that's gonna happen. People who are studying on their own at home don't have that privilege, so it's kind of inevitable. They're gonna develop some bad habits.
It's inevitable. We talk about that when you put blindfold on people and have them walk into a field to try to walk in a straight line, nobody can do it.
What was it? Sorry, say again.
If you put a blindfold on a person and have them walk into an open field, and the attempt is to walk in a straight line is not possible, because on our own we are not able to tell how we are veering one way or another. And so sight helps us see it, but also, of course, another person could be there to say,
I do like the idea. This sounds like one of those things that in the beginning of some YouTube video or something, someone tells someone about this, like, oh, it's impossible. If you put the blindfold on, you go walk into a cornfield, you can't do it. And then so they put the blindfold on them because the person wants to take the challenge, and then they pull a prank on them. It really sounds like the start of one of those.
It does, doesn't it?
Like what? Like
I don't know.
They could into a ditch or something.
They could all just go hop in a car and leave the person there with the blindfold on. I don't know. Okay. Anything works. We do have some others here. So here in the comments, I think, Marshall, you'd want to know, they said the Polgers at Judith Polgar.
Say that again?
Polgar?
The Polgar family.
Oh, thank you. How do you spell it?
Polgar.
Polgar. Well, I want to look them up. The Polgar family. Thank you for isn't that nice that when you don't know something, you've got somebody there who can bring it in? Thank you.
So one person in the chat
of smart people watching us. So
one person in the chat immediately after this moment where people are clearly typing at us, telling us about stuff that we're saying in this, asked, "Hello, is this pre-recorded?" Flippy Tunes. No, it's not. There was one thing I think that might actually be good to kind of drill into. My name is Charlie. Asked.
No.
Not our Charlie. Not our Charlie. Not Proco Charlie, who's normally here for Draftsmen.
Yeah.
But they asked, define bad habits in art. That actually might be a thing that some people in the chat might have no concept of and think it's personal choice. But what would you guys say are some common bad habits, or at least what defines a bad habit? It could be as simple as anything unintentional. Like, you should be able to do everything with intentionality, but do you guys have anything further than that?
Yeah, this is a rough one. I feel like if I just say a definition right now, it will absolutely be challenged, because I don't have enough time to come up with the one that's like as unchallengeable as possible. But because there's a lot of overlap between bad habits and style, right?
Yeah.
But here's a potential problem with just that as a way out. I've had many students in person, not online students, where I would tell them, hey, this isn't good. Like, you got to work on like your line quality. Like, it seems like all of your lines are really dark. Like, you just can't not press hard. Right. And it was clear they just don't have control of the pencil. And I was like, you got to start trying to work on it. Like, let's go over some exercises you could do to try to get a little more subtle, more finesse with your line quality. And they get a little defensive about it and say, this is my style. Like, this is me. And it's like, no, come on. Like, you could be better if you want. Like, isn't that why you're here at school? To get better? Like, we're not judging it. We're just helping you get better. And so the idea of like, this is my style as a way to make yourself feel better can get a little bit dangerous. You have to decide, as kind of like step back and just like let go of the ego and say, do I want that? Or am I just saying that's my style because I maybe don't have the confidence that I'm going to improve on that? Or I just maybe too lazy, or whatever it is. We all are all of these things, right? We're all a little lazy. We're all a little bit self-conscious. We all have fear of these bad qualities of ourselves. So they can get in the way, and you just have to step back and look at yourself, in a more objective way, right? But that doesn't answer the question. The examples of bad habits could be, holding a pencil in a bad way that prevents you from using it in a broader way so that you can have the most control. A bad habit could be like what I just said. Your lines are always too dark. You just can't get good line quality. Another one could be you throw one in there, Marshall. Throw one in there.
Well, I'm going to jump in here because you're aware that this can be a good question, but it can also be a baiting question.
It could be.
And here's why it can be a baiting question. Anything you say that is a bad habit, you will find an exception where somebody exploited that bad habit and made it their style, and it's great. So that's where it's difficult to answer this. But the first three that come to me is the one you mentioned, because it's a terrible habit with me, and it has been all my life, is that I have terrible line quality because I never paid attention to line quality until I came to the finish. Then I'd pay attention to it. So it's like if you're a singer-songwriter and your voice is terrible, it doesn't mean that you won't write good songs. And so I was always figuring that's okay. That's okay to have bad line quality. That's one. The other one that comes from personal experience is starting with details. I always like starting with details. You can say, well, some people do really well starting with details. The metaphor is that you start with a detail and you work out from it. It's like a seed that grows into a plant. But it is a terrible way to train a student. You would never want to train a beginning artist to say, always start with details. You'd give them an assignment where after you've learned to start from the big to the small, now you're going to do the opposite. So you give permission to do it. And then you can go ahead now. There's a third one that's on my mind, and I just lost it.
Yeah.
Bad line quality, starting with details.
Yeah, the example of details like that I've Morgan Weisling, for example, I've seen him start with the pupil of the eye.
Yeah.
Literally just like a dark dot.
Madman behavior. Insane behavior.
But he does it so well.
Yeah.
He'll just start with the pupil and he'll expand out. And then it's like, what the heck, man? Like, that is so good. Like, it's a perfect portrait afterwards.
Yeah.
So absolutely, there's always going to be an example where somebody takes a bad habit and does amazing work with it. That it comes together. When it's a bad habit versus a good habit is when it results in crappy art. If it prevents you from doing what you want to do, if you want chicken scratch because that is more expressive of what the emotions you're trying to express and stuff, then great. It's not a bad habit. You're choosing to do that. As long as you're honest with what you're actually choosing to do or choosing to make yourself feel better with.
I think that's the
main
thing.
I want to throw one more thing in here, because the bad line quality is like having a bad voice and you've got great things to say. The starting with details, I think, is more dangerous, but it's also, it can be brilliantly done. Storytellers that start with a scene and then they work out from that. But then there is one that is a bigger one than any of those, that also has its exception. It is that you have no feedback or interaction with community. And again, the exception is that some people, any advice that anyone gives them would throw them off course from their brilliant vision. So there's that exception. But apart from that, I think that is the worst thing. The bad habit is that I cannot take criticism. And if you do brilliantly, then great for you. But typically, it is the inability to respond positively with feedback and how the community that you choose, that you want.
That's probably the main one there. I didn't realize that in itself is the bad habit, is not taking criticism about your bad habit.
Right.
That's probably the worst. Yeah, bad habit is being not accepting your teachers to help you. Like, then you're just not going to be able to get over anything.
Look what Stephen just put up.
Protocol/community. Yeah.
And an advertisement.
Yeah. The another one I thought of is shape, like shape design in general. Like, people, when they don't study how to design good shapes, tend to design boring static shapes and get into symmetry. With figure drawing specifically, it's just like the snowman effect, where it's just symmetrical bubbles all the way down the body and the arms. and it just doesn't look good. Like there's no way around it. If you're trying to draw dynamic poses, and there's no excuse you can make for that kind of thing. So bad shape design habits can happen without you knowing it, without somebody telling you what good design is, what looks more dynamic, what gives shapes more energy and more interest. You do have to learn that. And if you don't, for like a decade, you're just drawing ugly shapes or boring shapes, that is going to be hard to get out of your
It is. I can
habits.
Speak from experience. It's a lack of sensitivity to the abstract design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Absolutely.
I think we've beat this one.
So I actually wanted to give you guys a positive one. We've kind of done some negative leaning ones, some like really technical ones. Who are some of your guys' recent artistic favorites? I don't think we should keep this to just being arts, like in this like pen and paper kind of way. Music, movies, directors, authors, whoever you guys got. What's a new discovery for you guys?
Shoot, man, I haven't been.
Feel free to think about this one for a little bit. Marshall, do you have anything that springs to mind?
Oh yeah, but I could go on for way too long.
I'm okay with this one.
Oh yeah, me too. I could go on way too long. I don't want to even start.
Stan needs the time right now.
Focus on one because it's come up over and over and over in the last few months and even in the last few days. Is that the French composers of the 1910s, 10s, and 20s, Ravel, Debussy, Satie, Sasson,
so sophisticated.
Fauré, those. I mean, I've known their music for decades, for like 20, 30, 40 years. But in the last few months, I've put together some playlists of Russian composers and French composers and juxtaposed them with some blues and some folk pop from the early 60s. And I am just swooning over that Ravel sonatine, that Ravel piano trio. It's just beyond belief to me. Debussy has a piano trio too that I've only gotten recently, but the French composers, where Paris was the center of the world, before New York was the center of the world, and they are impressionistic in a lot of their stuff is kind of impressionistic. They sound a bit like Monet paintings and that kind of thing. That's been really a big deal to me. We're just 3, 4, 5 times a week. It's hard for me not to accost people and ask them if they know who these composers are and whether they're listening. Sorry to be so out of the mainstream.
No, this is great. Yeah. Everyone should be listening to Debussy more. Come on, guys. There's more than just Clair de Lune. Get at it.
Clair de Lune's great, though.
Stan, did you think of anything during this?
Nah, I have not been absorbing more. This makes me realize I need to just absorb more art.
How do you feel about the newest season of Only Murders in the Building?
Come on, man. It's fine.
Oh, that's not enthusiastic.
Well, fine. I could lie to you.
So I think I'm sure that you'll think of something that you ended up liking. Yeah. Feel free to bring it back up later if you want. But we do have.
I have been absorbing mostly art that I already know of. I've been focusing on teaching more than I have on finding new art to absorb, and then when I go home, it's my kids, and I don't like do stuff.
It's fair.
All right. Yeah.
So there were a couple different questions that people asked about how to approach learning art, basically. There are 2 people here who have magnificent courses, have specialized in suggesting books and different things. I think Noah Bigger put it most succinctly. Any advice for someone starting in their late 20s? I'm thinking of taking some drawing courses at a community college, but I'm wondering if I should work through some books and different video courses. How do you guys suggest someone approaches learning in this way? And what are some common pitfalls?
Well, what's the current skill level? But I mean,
that's a solid question. Help them assess this, because let's be realistic. Most people aren't going to make an accurate assessment. They're either going to undervalue or overvalue their skill set.
That's true. If you're undervaluing it, you're probably really skilled. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once you're at the extremes, you're gonna bring yourself towards the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's an intermediate artist, right? Everybody
better be
when they self-assess themselves, they're intermediate.
Common pitfalls. So if someone's saying I'm gonna start learning, they're clearly a person who's going to be working. They only have so much time. How can someone approach learning from either books, video courses like the two of you guys's, Proco.com/perspective, Proco.com/basics, and what do you recommend for them to make sure they do in that process?
We have a great series of Draftsmen episodes for creating your own replicating art school. Right? Well, what did we call it?
We called it creating your own art school or something like that.
DIY art school.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, DIY art school.
Yeah, listen to that. It's like 4 episodes, I think.
Basically, it was like 8 episodes, wasn't it? Or 5?
It was like 5 or 8 topics, but we combined 2 per episode, so it ended up being like 4 or 5.
Okay, but yes, we've said everything we need to say about that.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but there's only you could watch the whole thing in like 5 hours. It's a lot, but it's it's easy listening. We went over everything that you get from art school and how you can recreate all of it on your own. Some of it it's gonna be very difficult to recreate. Like community and feedback are the 2 that we identified as like those are hard, but we went over like how you can try and stuff. But if you're just talking about getting the information, then books and videos are a great way of doing it, as long as you can create your own structure, which is another thing that college universities give you, is they give you the curriculum, the structure, and say, here's what's next. Now do this thing. Here's a project. And I try to give as much structure as I can with all the courses that I create. And I know Marshall's perspective course also has a lot of great structured lesson. Here's a project, here's a demo, here's a critique. Like it gives you everything in order and how to practice it. With books, it's a little bit harder. Most books don't have that kind of like the structure to tell you what to do afterwards. It's like, here's all the info. But if you're good at taking info and then creating your own projects or applying it to your existing projects, then absolutely, like you could get really far just from YouTube and books. Marshall?
Well, I feel like I've said everything I have to say about it, in those podcasts we did, and also in that 1-hour video that's like $8 on design your career with a whiteboard. Because the question is so big and it's so abstract that how could you answer it specifically? Take perspective, take anatomy. Taking perspective and taking anatomy may be a waste of your time. So I'll give you the 1-minute version of what you'll learn in the whiteboard lecture is that if you get a whiteboard where you can redraw and erase and change everything and get it vertical in your space, and you put on there the things that you're juggling, the things you're dealing with, so you can see them graphically. And I offer several different metaphors. One obvious one is like I don't even know whether I mentioned it, but a target. I'm aiming at this, so all this stuff should get me there. Or a map that I'm trying to get here, and here's my way to get, or a timeline. One of them is a petri dish that I've got all of these ingredients in my life. How can they come together and make something new? So if you are really seeking to answer that question for you, you must answer that question for you. And your elements that you are trying to put together and make something into your skills and your loves and your even your career, it's going to be unique to you. So the best I can do is what I did in that 1-hour lecture.
Yeah. For those of you guys who aren't on the Draftsman channel watching this right now, I dropped a link in the description, a link in the chat here, so you guys can go straight over to that channel and see those episodes. I think that we should probably make those into their own kind of like Proco.com/DIY art school with a couple resources. That could be pretty handy. There's a question here that I think is going to be a whole life lesson from you guys. You're going to be mentors right now.
Oh no, one of those.
Because I think this is going to be a wider ranging question than they intend.
Okay.
Dencho Stoyanov was asking, do you think it's a good idea to leave an unfinished painting for like a really long time before returning to finish it? This seems like it has other wider implications.
Marshall, I think we have the same reaction.
I don't have an opinion about that because it can be the best thing you could do.
Yeah.
And there are stories, and don't get me started on them, but there are stories that people set something aside and then came back to it decades later. William Goldman with The Princess Bride is an example, but there are many examples. And then there are others where you get tons of things that are unfinished and you're never going to get back to them because it's like saving everything and crowding your attic and you don't know what to do with it. So I cannot give any definitive answer for that.
Yeah.
It takes your wisdom. And
it's one of those things.
It takes friends who might have opinions about it.
Well, you got to make your own choice on that one, I think.
Yeah.
Eventually. But I think it is one of those things that really needs that balance, and you figure out where that balance is, because it's not good to always start things and then just not finish them. That's one bad habit. That is actually a very common bad habit, is just not following through with projects. You just get too excited for the next shiny thing before you finish the previous one, and you never really get the full results of that thing, all that effort you put into it. Because with a lot of things, if you don't finish it, you get nothing out of it. I mean, there's the learning experience, but I mean, like, if you don't finish any painting ever, you're never going to sell any paintings, right? You're still learning from all of that stuff, but projects, if you want to actually extract the full value out of them, you have to finish them. So not finishing is a bad habit, but also I wouldn't say making sure that you finish everything you start is good either. You have to be able to just say, like, you know what, this other thing came up and is way more important than this thing I started. I'm just going to cut this off right now. It's not doing much for me. That's okay. Just because you started something doesn't mean you have to put more time into finishing it, even if because like sometimes you might identify that it's just not going anywhere and it's a waste of time. You just made a bad decision initially to even start it, and you got to be able to kill those projects. So figuring out where each project is just up to you. Like you said, Marshall, it's your own wisdom that needs to.
You could go watch the podcast that Stan and I did 2 months ago on long-term projects.
Yeah.
We talked about that as much as we could, I think.
I agree. That's a great one for this. I think we're pretty deep in this one, but I just want to go ahead and say we did have a sponsor for this one. And that is this whole podcast has been brought to you by Proco.com/perspective. Right now, Marshall's brand new course is on sale for 15% off until October 1st, when the first lesson will be being released. If any of you guys haven't gotten to check that out already, it's pretty freaking good. Marshall's a smart man who's done a good job on this one for many years.
The first lesson has been released.
It has been.
It is a free lesson on YouTube. And you know, Stan, some people have not seen it because they watched our little announcement and they watched our live stream and they say, yeah, I saw your first lesson and it was good. They never even saw the cartoon that Cody did. They didn't see what is it?
No.
8 to 9 minutes.
Miss the first lesson.
Yeah.
If you don't know about the cartoon in the middle of the video,
yeah,
then you have not seen the first lesson. There is a first lesson.
Yeah, so you guys should just, if you guys
and
haven't
it is a free one, right?
It's a free one.
That is a free one, so anyone can just go on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't watched this right here on this channel, or if you guys aren't watching on Draftsmen on the Proco TV channel, if you can't figure out which video it is, it'll be pretty easy, but you should just watch all of the lessons in reverse order.
It's called Perspective for Drawing Anything, and it has a treasure chest on the front of it. And yeah, boy, this is definitely a commercial.
Dude, we're almost at 1,000 videos. I just looked at a chat. We're at 974.
Goodness.
Wow.
Marshall, there's a chance that one of your Perspective videos is going to be number 1,000.
Oh, well, good. I hope that.
There was maybe in celebration of releasing 1,000 videos, we can have a Proco challenge.
A what?
A Proco challenge? I don't know. Someone in the chat. This was an attempt at a segue. Okay. Someone in the chat was asking, are there any Proco challenges planned?
Oh, well, yeah, we used to have monthly Proco challenges.
Yeah. Those were good, weren't they?
No, but wait.
I said those were good, weren't they? No.
Oh, no, I was saying no to the question, not to your comment.
But yeah, no, there are none planned. You were saying though.
No, there are no challenges planned, but there are a lot of well, not a lot, but we are almost done with the native live stream feature in Proco 2.0. So we are going to have a lot more like workshop type of courses next year. So that's going to be cool. Marshall, this is something you've requested for years. Because you love running workshops. Yeah, it's so close, Marshall.
Yeah, there's something
been working on it forever.
There's interaction.
Not as long as you've been working on
it. It's people have had things like art jams and things like that. There's something exciting about that we're going to do this project this week. It's summer vacation energy with your friends.
Actually, so Christian told me that what are they called? Cohort classes are becoming pretty popular.
Very.
What are they?
Very.
Steven? Yeah. So in the chat, if you guys tell me if you've taken my figure or anatomy class, or really any of the classes on Proco, if I do a cohort class, which is, would you be interested in it? Which is, I already have this course created, right? It's been available for 8 years, like figure drawing, right? And you could go and you can watch these videos whenever you want. But people do enjoy going through them at the same time.
Yeah.
Like there is this like community aspect to it. If I do a cohort class, which is basically you sign up for this additional live portion of it, and we go through that course again together. Plus I add on live streams where we can do Q&As and additional critiques for the people going through it again. So it's like an add-on or like a wraparound thing for existing courses. Would you take that even if you've already taken the figure course? Like, is this something the community is interested in? Because I think that's a great thing to kind of revive our existing fundamental courses.
I did put out.
I love figure and anatomy so much, but I already taught those courses. I'm not going to go back to making another one. Yeah. This seems like a perfect opportunity for me to like go back and add on to it.
Yeah, it's like an advanced version of building a class around a textbook that is such a good textbook, but now it's more than a textbook. It's video lessons.
I did put out a poll here in the chat. I asked if they'd be interested. 93% so far have said yes. But to be fair, this is a pretty captive audience. Like,
this is a supportive group.
That's true.
I don't know if they're the best sample size.
How many people are here, Stephen? Can I ask?
Ooh, that's gonna be a hard one.
2 channels.
Yeah, 2 channels. I can go look this up.
Well, we don't want to take time with it, but we
ask us the first question, or ask us the next question, and then we can go.
Yeah. So we've got a couple. Marshall, do you want to have a question about the perspective course, or do you want a different, wider ranging question?
Let's just go for a wider range, unless you feel like it's really relevant, because for the next year, I'm going to be talking about the perspective course in the perspective course. So yeah, if you're not sold on it by now, you probably don't want it.
That's fair. That's fair. So it looks like we have one here from Harlan Littlejohn. I have the basics down for figure drawing with reference, but I struggle with figure invention. Do y'all have any tips for improving that stuff for illustrations, comics, and more?
I think I released a free lesson on how to improve your visual memory. That was a free one, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a free one.
Yeah.
Yeah, visual memory games. Yeah, this was a month ago. This is a pretty new lesson. And in there, I give 4 games or little exercises that you could play with a 5 as a bonus that will help you improve your visual memory, which is really what you need to be able to draw from that visual memory and invent out of. Because like invention really is just memory drawing, like you can't draw a person from imagination if you don't even remember what a person looks like. So you really have to be able to remember all of those shapes from different angles and like how things look when you stretch an armpit. So yeah, there's exercises for you to get better at it. It's a muscle. You have to memorize. You have to develop that ability. It's not like something I can tell you and you're like, aha, I got it. I can draw from imagination now. But I give you some exercises.
Yeah.
Marshall?
Well, yeah, we have talked about it, even though we didn't do an episode specifically on. We've talked about it a number of times, and to a person who's asking that question, I'd ask them, "What are you doing right now to work on it?" because you work on, like you said once, is that you just have to practice drawing from imagination. You practice and practice, run into trouble. Then you have to learn form. You have to understand. You know, Kim Jong-gi said it all, and he said it over and over, and he said it so simply, and he also exemplified it. And so when somebody who can draw out of their imagination unbelievably freely, and he says, here's how I think in terms of boxes, I think in terms of simple forms, I practice looking at it from different angles, and you just keep doing that. He studied, what does a cat look like? So he's studying anatomy, studying form. The answers are simple. The work is hard.
The work, that's where it always,
I think that if in the next few years we can build a class around a book that Dan Frege, who draws very freely from imagination, the pivotal point for him was a book called The Einstein Factor. And I keep thinking of the film director Wim Wenders, but it's the person who wrote The Einstein Factor has a name like Wim Wenders. I did not go through the book. I read the beginning parts, and he comes to the exercises of image streaming, where he turns this into a discipline where you practice imaging regularly. Imagination and image have the same word. And
imagining, visualizing some shape or
I'd love to go through that with a group for say 12 weeks. We're going to really work on applying this.
But Marshall, there's a lot of things that you'd love to do, but right now you're doing
there's just not enough time for it.
There's a lot. But the easiest place to start, guys, there's a 6-minute video that was released a month ago called How to Improve Your Visual Memory. 6 minutes. And that's the answer, but then you still have to do the hard work afterwards. So
I think that's all of art.
Okay, well, I was trying to see if I could find that book so I could be accurate about the author.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. I think honestly that's the takeaway for like 10 of the questions is here's the resource, you still have to do the work. And it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's learning how to actually apply yourself and do stuff with intention. That applies to line quality, study, and so many different things.
Being an artist is like a mix of being an athlete and learning a language.
Yeah.
Like both of those require just a whole bunch of work.
Yeah. And people pick up a language quickly when they're in an environment where everybody's speaking the language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's one here. I think that I don't know. This is more of an interesting one. This is a little wider reaching one. So NanoCog asked a few different times. So they really want to know the answer to this. Stan and Marshall, do you curate the art and media for your kids? Are there classics that do or don't hold up for the next generation? Is this a practice either of you guys have employed?
Now, I'm not sure I understood that question. For my kids, you mean for my students?
This kids. Honestly, you can choose to take this in any direction. You can use this with students or for your son.
Well,
his son is older now, but
but at the time,
30s, certainly curated. Just kids only know what they are exposed to, and because we did not have television.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You didn't even have a TV.
No, we didn't have television.
You chose not to have a TV.
That's right.
That's an intentional choice. So that is partly a curation of what they are going to be absorbing, or he was absorbing, right?
Yeah.
What did he do when he was not watching TV? When all the other kids were at home watching TV, what was he doing?
Oh, he did what kids have been. I was big on and still am to allow kids time to play, to come up with their own ideas of what they want to do, to not engineer the playing, but to respond to it. But it's exhausting, and if you're not don't have the time to do it, to let them do it with other people you trust. But yeah, he played a lot. He didn't play enough in high school. I mean, and junior high, because he started to get so serious about school. So I was trying to get him to be less serious about school. But video was a part of our life, just not TV. Music was a huge part of it. His teen years. We discovered jazz together, and it was not a dad thing because I did not know jazz and he did not know jazz, and we weren't around people who knew jazz. So when we started to find the jazz pianists and discover them together, it was a bonding thing.
That's cool.
It was just great to go to the 1930s, 30s and 40s and find out what unbelievable great music came out of those old recordings. So that was that was a big deal. But go back to the question. I start to get off on emotional tangents that I like to talk about rather than answering the questions. Was it, how do you curate?
Like,
do we curate?
Yeah. Did you, and are there any classics you think that I think do hold up, or are there classics?
Of what? Of artwork?
They did not specify. Yeah. I think this one is up to you. Do you think that there are things that you think should be included? Yeah, I think that's how I'll choose to interpret this one for conversation's sake.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the canon of Western literature is something that is to behold. It's just amazing. It's why I love teaching illustrating literature. But there's all sorts of other literature from other parts of the world that's important too. It's just that I don't know them as well. And then there's I've been watching, one of my former students recommended a documentary called Viva Maestro, with spotlighting Gustavo Dudamel. And this is a guy from Venezuela and with music students in Mexico. And they are into Beethoven. And don't miss the Beethoven sonatas from 1 to 32. Just start with the first 4. Spend a year or 3 on those first 4. They are to die for. And get different performances. Don't listen to just one performance. Cycle through the different performers, Willem Kemp and Vladimir Ashkenazy, and all of the great performers of piano. That's music. We talked about literature, music, and then for art, the ones that I did a whole course on Heinrich Klei and George Bridgman, and you can do ones on the Italian masters. Just all of these great artists, and then if you start with a core of stuff that has lasted for centuries and that people keep rediscovering. Beethoven is not easily accessible. Mozart is much more easily accessible. Mozart's piano sonatas are easy to like. Baroque music, Vivaldi and Handel and Bach are pretty easy to like. So yeah, the stuff that transcends its generation, and not just like the Beatles transcended their generation. And they're certainly worth knowing their catalog, but go to the stuff that has transcended not just its generation, but its century, and 2, 3, 4, 5 centuries. And you've probably got something that any sensitive young person, sensitive to art, sensitive to storytelling, sensitive to music, they are going to be patient enough with it, or even get little glimmers of it enough to say, I want to invest time. Now I'll end on this. I spent a small fortune on CDs in the 80s to get the Beethoven collection of piano sonatas played by Daniel Barenboim. I spent $400 of 1980s dollars because they were $189 and 2 volumes. And I was so concerned about spending that money. And I sat for lunch with a conductor that we knew. And I said, are all of those sonatas good? And he said, I think it is safe to say that all of those sonatas are good. And they're very different from 1 to 32, a huge evolution. But when I got the CDs, I put them in and I only listened to maybe 15 to 20 seconds of each movement. I did that over a period of time because these are going to take years. But I remember feeling like I'm going to get to know astronomy. I'm going to get to know the night sky. And when you look at the night sky, even for 10 or 15 seconds, you start to say, there is a lot in there. It gave me just enough of a flavor to where now, 35 years later, they still take my breath away. So yeah, that's what, because you asked this question and you asked it so that I can answer it subjectively, and that has nothing to do with making art, but Beethoven's process, when you compare it to Haydn and you compare it to Mozart and you compare it to some others, Beethoven's process, there's a lot to be learned from that too, if you care about it. Okay, I went on for a long time on that, Stan. How about you?
You got to stop, Marshall. You got good info. These people love you being here. Say things. They want to hear them.
We do. I mean, we try to be a little balanced with how we curate it. We let them explore and figure out what they like, but we'll identify when they're watching something that's like, no, this is not good for you. Like at first we would give Quinn the iPad, right? She's got her iPad time. And we noticed she just clicking on all the toys. Like kids playing with toys is just like this thing that is like so popular on kids' YouTube. And we're like, okay, we can't have YouTube curate her stuff. She's just gonna watch other kids playing. Like that's not like that's horrible. She's not learning anything, and then she's not playing. So yeah, I absolutely like one thing that we really like is as far as a classic is Sesame Street. I think it still holds very well. Yeah, Sesame Street's the favorite. But then there's a lot of new ones that I think are like already classics. Like they're just so good. Like Bluey.
Yeah, Bluey keeps coming up. I still haven't
Bluey.
seen it, but I want to. Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, Bluey should be a classic. Peppa Pig is amazing. Yeah, those should be classics. But yeah, generally I think we let them explore because they'll find something that they cling onto and they like, and we're like, okay, that's fine. They can do that because like Quinn is really into princesses, so it's like I don't know what do we give her to let her enjoy this thing that she loves, but also not be watching people play with princess dolls, right? So she'll find some princess stuff and yeah.
Thoughtful parenting.
Yeah, absolutely. Stan, you guys you would say that you guys limit the iPad time and stuff like that for your kids?
Well, yeah, of course. Otherwise, they'd be watching all day. Of course, we have
to. You got like a repetitive stress injury recently?
You know what?
I believe.
You know,
how did that happen?
What?
I'll just bow out. You go ahead and talk.
What? This wasn't that recent. But yeah, I guess it was earlier this year. It wasn't that repetitive. Okay, I was playing iPad with Cooper, and it was is Mario Run, right? Is that the one?
Yes.
It's Mario, right? I think it's Mario Run. We haven't played it since because I was like, I'm not doing that again. We played it for one day, and you have to smack the screen with your thumb just over and over again. This is all you do is you just smack in the screen. And something happened to the base of my thumb. I could not hold a pencil. Like I could actually not squeeze it tight enough to hold it. It was so painful through here for months. And this was just from playing on an iPad for like 3 hours with my son. We went on for a little too long there, but it was a Saturday. We were having a lazy Saturday. But yeah,
I just want to make sure it came up.
Yeah, okay, whatever. But yeah, no, it still hurts. It's been probably 9 months. It's still when I go to when I squeeze it, like I could still feel it. I don't know what happened. It's so weird. So yeah, don't play those tapping games, guys.
Yeah, do your stretches too. If you're gonna play Mario Run for 3 hours, do your stretches beforehand.
Who's gonna be like, oh yeah, I've been playing for 95 minutes. I gotta stretch my thumb. Like, I don't think so.
I mean, this is me personally.
This is for one day. We played it for one day. It's not like I was doing this for weeks on end. Like, just anyway, let's move on.
Would you guys be interested in a lightning round? A couple fun ones.
Sure,
and a couple,
let's do that.
A couple less fun ones.
Why do the less fun ones?
They're just not as explicitly fun. You'll see.
Make sure you name them off. Like
we can call them out.
Like Carlos.
Oh, with the
there's a Carlos on
Carlos was the one who asked the very serious question earlier.
Funny. That was a random name, and then I looked and I saw there was a Carlos.
So this one's from Marshall. Is there any type of ruler that you would recommend for a person wanting to follow along with your perspective course?
The clear view, or what do they call them? Give me a moment here. Let me see if I've got mine here. They're famous rulers because they're thin and that you can see through. What are they? Anyone know what this is?
I don't know.
Let's see if we can.
This is like a standard,
transparent ruler.
What is it? Does it clear view? I think they're called. Let's see.
Look at those spheres, though.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I didn't say anything good about them. I just said, look at them.
Yeah, just look at them. Well, this looks like it says Westcott.
Okay.
Yeah, Westcott. But it isn't important. Just try different ones.
Any straight edge is fine. You don't need to measure in your course, right? You just need to have a straight edge.
Oh, there'll be some stuff where we do measuring, sure.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
No, you can use almost any straight edge. There are certain preferences people have, and the way you learn them is buy one, and if you don't like it, buy another one. If you don't like it, eventually you're going to find one that you like.
I think
Stan, you went out of focus.
Yeah, he's all crunchy now. That's weird. Oh, it's cleaning up now, as we pointed out.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that people, they often have that kind of the idea there's going to be some huge piece of equipment they need for this course or that. Just use an edge.
The next free lesson in perspective will be about materials.
Oh, perfect. That'll be out October 1st when the course is out of pre-sale.
No, I think it takes a little longer than that because we've got several premiums that are going to be coming out. I'm not sure.
A little claymation in that one? Is that?
Yeah, the one of introducing instruments just got that little 10-second thing of
10-second claymation
that Kel Noel did.
Dang, I thought I was gonna have this like nice little segue to trying to sell it again.
Well, we're over an hour and a half here. Do we got other stuff that we've got to?
What happened to lightning round?
Yeah. So the last thing that I'll ask here to kind of close this one out is, if Stan played Marshall at Pictionary, who would win? Oh,
shoot! I don't know. Maybe I think play.
Yeah, that'll be a stretch goal for some project or something. You guys each playing
I don't know
together.
I don't know that I've ever played Pictionary.
Oh, well then I would win. I'm pretty good.
Yeah. Nailed it. All right. I guess so let's kind of wrap this thing up then. Marshall, if people want to find out more about what you've got going on besides this perspective course at proco.com/perspective that's on pre-sale for 15% off for just a little bit longer, where can they find you online?
Well, you can go to my website, but you're not going to find anything new because the perspective course is my life right now. And it will be, but I am teaching. If you're in California, if you're in Southern California, and you can attend a live Saturday class for 16 weeks, starting in the spring, I'm planning on doing a production design class for classic science fiction. So if you like classic science fiction and you want to watch old science fiction movies and come up with your own ideas for ray guns and helmets and rocket ships and the old stuff and make your twist on them, there will be some perspective in it. We will be doing orthos and ideating like crazy and then turning it into 3D stuff. That is if you are in Southern California and can take your Saturdays for 6.5 hours. And I don't know that it'll be on my website because I haven't been advertising these. But if you are interested in that, you can contact me through my website and I can send you the information. And I'll know in the next, it might not even happen. It just depends on whether enough people sign up for it.
All right.
That's the only thing I've got going besides the perspective course.
Okay.
Hanging out with students on Saturday in person in a classroom at the community college.
Okay. Some eagle-eyed people have kind of noted that you do have an Instagram. It is just one.
That is some Instagram, isn't it? It's got one post on it.
Hey, you've started an Instagram.
Yeah.
People need to go subscribe or follow Marshall on Instagram so that he'll start posting on there.
We'll see.
And then for Stan, where can people find you and what will you be up to?
People could find me on the Proco YouTube channel on Proco.com. And Stan Prokopenko and Proco on Instagram, and it's mainly Instagram. There's some TikToks and you can find me on Proco.com.
So you guys are not good at selling yourselves. Just want to point that out.
What are you talking about? I have the drawing basics course.
Great
you can go purchase that. You could buy that.
Salesman.
You could pay money for that.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
No, literally anything. You guys just no confidence in what you guys are making.
Well, we got our work cut out for us. And
you asked me where they can find me. I don't know.
But Stephen, I think it was great to have you here. It was great to have some variety of faces. And
what is that supposed to mean, Marshall?
Yeah, Stephen's been good company. Thank you, Stephen.
It's good to get to hang out with you guys.
And Stan's in the center of it. Look at that. Stan is the star.
I didn't make that choice. That was
Stephen did.
There you go.
What?
Oh,
there we go.
I love it.
Nailed it. But
this is better. This is better. It totally matched the color.
Oh,
the
yeah,
yellow.
You're right because it's the warm in the middle. Yeah.
That's
and
fair.
then we both have black shirts with white text, and we have gray backgrounds.
Yeah, we got you covered here. Marshall, thank you for being here. Stan, thank you for being here. For those of you guys who did forget,
we have
the whole
some
reason
fresh
that we're here,
bread on the outsides and some aged salami in the middle.
Great thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Sorry.
But yeah, thank you guys for being here. If you guys are curious about anything else that we've been talking about here so far, all that can be found in the description. You guys know what you're here for, though. You're on Proco. You're on Draftsmen. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. See you guys.
Bye. Whoa, he left
He's
already.
gone.
Oh my God, he got somewhere to be.